Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. In this session, we'll be discussing how the permit units develop leadership and capacity building through our refresher training. Let me start by introducing the team to you. We are the permit unit, and we're housed under the facilities department. The permit team consists of 16 brilliant individuals, and our role within the board is to process school, departments, and community requests to use the TDSB facilities. Of the 16, 6 of us make up the SIT team. I am Elba, and I'll be leading the first half of the presentation. My colleague Glenith will be leading the second half, and Dava, Ugoma, and Louisa will be assisting with the question period at the end. Unfortunately, we have one more member, Paul, that will not be able to join us today. As I mentioned, our team focused on a project we call Refresher Training. As an overview, this project consisted of 23 virtual sessions done over a 2-hour period through Zoom. It was over 4 months between August to November 2020. We had a total of 12 presenters, and of those, 10 were in-house, meaning that within our own department, 1 interdepartmental, and 1 external. We had a total of 24 handouts provided to staff at the end or at the beginning. That makes out roughly 1 to 2 handouts per session. So why this refresher? There were various reasons, but the 5 core that stood out were: 1, we held an internal PD session back in January 2020. And after the PD, we surveyed our staff and found that consistency within the department was needed. 2, each staff is responsible for 2 to 3 wards, and from time to time, our department will do a ward redistribution to allow staff an opportunity to not only experience different areas, but also for uniformity and balanced workload. 3, there was an update with our policy P011 in October 2018 and procedure PR666 in December 2020, which both are the guidelines for community use of board facilities. 4, for new staff orientation, and 5, what better time to do a department training than during the COVID lockdown? Now you may wonder, what's in it for us, the people? Well, we broke down the benefit of TDSB staff management, showing excellent customer service with fairness and equity. TDSB will benefit from developing leadership capabilities while promoting service excellence. The staff will have consistency, mentorship, and most importantly, a confidence booster. Finally, management will have independent staff, increase in efficiency and productivity, which means that more time for policy implementation. Now I'm going to pass it to Glenith that will take over and discuss how we planned, implement, stored our next steps, staff testimonials. Glenith?
Thank you, Alba. Hello, I am Glenith. Now that we have our idea, we can start planning and implementing. So the next slide is planning. We'll start with planning. The initial concept originated from our staff, so we decided to go back to them. A survey was sent to our staff inquiring about any requests or topics they wanted to cover. From there, management and senior team scheduled and attended meetings to discuss the data collected from the surveys. From these meetings, management and senior team selected presenters based on their expertise to the topic, as well as some staff nominated staff to be presenters. Implementation. Once the presenters were confirmed, a schedule was sent out to staff outlining the dates, times, topics to be covered, and the presenter for that topic. Based on the schedule, staff was able to provide input by sending questions or feedbacks to the presenter to be included in their presentation. On the day of the session, the presenter and management met on Zoom prior to the time and sorted out any technical issues. Handouts and a feedback were sent out after each session initially. However, later on, some presenter provided handouts prior to the presentation so staff could follow along. A final evaluation was sent out at the very end of the project for final feedback from staff. Storage. For greater efficiency, our SIT team decided to store and provide access through Google. Storing of the files was on the Google Drive, and access of the files was through a Google site that Paul, one of our city members, spearheaded. Thank you, Paul. The reason for the separation was to prevent or reduce error of accidental changes or editing to the files. With this direction, our team also requested an interdepartmental training for Google Drive, as our entire department are used to using the style for storage. After the training for the Google Drive, our staff had an additional training from Paul to show us how to access the files through our own Google site. Next steps. Now that we have established the foundation to this refresher training, our next steps for this project are continuous. As new information and policies change, our notes in the Google Drive are continuously updated. New sessions are and will always be added accordingly, such as a session regarding filming that was added back in July. The chart on your right shows how often our staff uses the notes and the Google site. Note the results may vary at the time of the survey for various reasons, one mainly being that we process cyclically. There are a lot of permits that run on a yearly schedule, for example, field permits or summer permits. The notes for these will be reviewed when we do process these permits, then the notes will not be used until the following fiscal year. Despite this, we continue to encourage our staff to reference these notes through the Google site or Drive for quick reminders. Here are some testimonials from our staff regarding these sessions. I'll just read one or two. Debbie, who said, "They have been very handy to have, as my notes were left in the office when we started working from home. It's been very beneficial as I'm a visual learner." Another example is from Caroline, who said, "It is invaluable, particularly for uncommon scenarios or permits. We do not have guidelines for the specifics of which are forgotten or unclear in memory." That wraps up our presentation for today. The floor is now open for questions, which will be answered by Ndaba, Ugoma, and Louisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenna.
Are there any questions?
Yeah, I actually have one for you guys. It's Ken here from the client service desk.
Hi, Jen.
Hello. So with your, we have something similar, but my question is, how do you guys, do you guys update it? Do you have a committee to update the actual information, or do you do it periodically, or is it just static? Nothing needs to be changed?
We update it. I would say we update it as we go, but what happens first is, for example, say we have a Google Doc on permitting for commercial filming. And if Alba is processing that permit and she comes in across one or two challenges that were not addressed in that form, that will go to either the senior clerk, myself, or Ugoma. We look at it and we see if it is a unique or it is something that we need to actually include in that document. If it is something that we need to include in that document, we immediately update the Google Docs, and a note is sent to every member of the staff to say this has been updated. Please see the change, and we mention what the changes are. So it depends on how big the item that needs to be changed is, and if it is really something that is going to be common and that we need to share with everybody.
Okay, thank you. Sounds good.
And then new sessions are also decided or added depending on either it could be, for example, last week the deputy minister issued a memo that impacts on communities of schools. So we're in the process of reviewing that, if it is something that needs to go to all the 16 team members, or if it is something that's going to reside within administration, then a new session will also be added and then immediately be brought in, and then we have a session running. So it's all pretty much now event driven, and we are reacting as we move on, because most of, apart from the policy and the procedure, everything that we do, at times it can be subjective, and it can be memo driven, or it can be a directive driven. So we are just reacting as we move on.
So is it the person that finds out that the change that does the update, or do you guys have a few people that do it, or just?
It's the senior clerks and the permit unit management core that would sit and say, okay, this is what we need to change, and this is what we share with the team. The person who comes up, say Alba came up across an item, would only flag it and recommend it, and then the system changes done at the management level.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Maxine, do you have a question?
I think this is amazing. It's such excellent work, and I can see how useful it would be. I'm wondering, when you store these documents in the Google Drive for all the staff to access, do you have separate ones, kind of like broken out by topic or chapter, or do you keep everything in one document and then people do like keyword searches or like Control F find for a topic, or is it broken into pieces?
Actually, I could answer that. So we had 24 sessions, and all those sessions were dealing with different topics. So already that is broken down. So each of the information we have is saved under that topic. And the topic also went through the cycles that we go through when we're processing. So we have the childcare, we have Con Ed, just the way our whole work here is built. That's how we built the sessions. So each one of them is under a particular session.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any more questions? We may have time for one final one.
So while we're on that, I can actually to add on to Yugoma's answer. This is a site that is actually was created by our staff. This is scroll down, broken up by dates of when we did it and what the topic was. So say for we're going into the TSB school on site, they can actually click on that. The system will open up to the notes that was done on that day. So basically staff do not have to do a control find. And as you can see, it's live. We actually have one of our coworkers that was in it. So that's that. Thank you, Maxine. If there's no questions, we only have 40 seconds left. So I just want to say thank you for joining our session. Thank you for all the questions. We appreciate it, and then hope you enjoyed our presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.